What is up, everybody? We're doing a special live today. This is the Huddle. This is State of the Steelers. I'm Daniel J. And today we're talking Pittsburgh Steelers are finally back. It's 2022. It's time for some normality, so to speak, and time for a normal pace of things. We'll be going over the new layout or what's to expect from State of the Steelers here going forward. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know if you guys can hear me okay. And don't forget to hit that notification bell. That way you're notified of all our daily shows, segments, and weekly lives. With that being said, guys, I'm Daniel J. This is State of the Steelers, and welcome to the Huddle. So the Pittsburgh Steelers finally start 2022, and now it is the week 1 of the 2022 season. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be playing the Cincinatti Bengals this upcoming Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 o'clock Central Time, and I, for one, cannot wait. And so what we're going to be doing from here on out, guys, for the show is we're going to be doing I'll be posting out a little bit later in the mornings. Tomorrow might be an afternoon show just because I want to, listen to what Mike Tomlin's going to say and go over his first press conference for the 2022 season and go over, what everybody's anticipating, which is who is going to be the week 1 starter at the quarterback position. And so before we get started, let's say hello to a few of the early on folks in the live chat. We have Allie Howard. How's it going, Allie? We have Steelers fan. Thank you for letting me know that we sound good. We have Claude. How's it going, Claude? And so, like I said, everybody's on their toes and pins and needles, or so to speak, for the declaration of who's going to be the 2022 Pittsburgh Steelers QB1. Now, all indications, in my opinion, indicate that it's going to be Mitch Trubisky. It's coming from what I've been able to find is that he's been the QB1 in practices and take a majority of the snaps there. And so I think they're going to go with Mitch Trubisky. I think he was the answer for this year's replacement of Ben Roethlisberger when they picked him up in free agency. I think the Steelers were quite pleasantly surprised that that Kenny Pickett dropped to number 20 in the 2022 NFL draft. The Steelers were trying to move up to get him. Kenny Pickett who is the person who the Pittsburgh Steelers were eyeing throughout the entire time in the draft for their first round pick. It was reported they were trying to move up to the 15th spot, I believe, to pick up Kenny. I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers had announced as well that they weren't anticipating Kenny Pickett being available at that time, and even at 15. And for him to have dropped, I don't think he was initially in their plans. He may have been a guy who they were hoping, something would have happened. But I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to be going on with Mitch Trubisky starting of this year. And I think they're going to continue on with that plan, so to speak. And so with that being said, I'm looking forward to it. I think Mitch Trubisky is a capable quarterback. He is a quality starter. He's had NFL games under his belt. He has taken his team to the playoffs. He has a Pro Bowl. He is a mobile QB. There are some concerns there with his decision-making, throwing the ball down the field, and perhaps holding on to the ball a little bit longer and looking at the rush coming at him instead of, what's opening up down the field, which is why, in my opinion, if you start Kenny Pickett, that's probably the reason why. What he showcased in the preseason was that he was able to diagnose the plays as they developed and threw the wide open spot accurately and on the move in stride. And so I feel that, with that being said, it's a toss up for me as far as who are they going to start. I anticipated that if it was close, and I know a lot of people were saying that if it was close, go with the rookie. I thought that the Steelers would go with the with the veteran if it was close in this situation, solely because of the experience, resume, and everything that comes attached to it. And so, with that being said, I just think that, everything that they're doing says it's going to be Mitch Trubisky. I don't think he's going to have a very long leash if the Pittsburgh Steelers are in contention. I go back and, like I've said before, you have to look at what the Pittsburgh Steelers are doing and have done versus what they have said or say they will do, because if you follow what they're saying, that may mislead you many times. And if you go back to 2019, the Pittsburgh Steelers had a possible heir apparent in Mason Rudolph that they felt was a first round graded quarterback that dropped to the third round for him. And so going into that season, once Ben injures his elbow, Mason's thrown into the lineup, and his leash wasn't very long for a guy entering that season. It was a camp arm, and I've said this many times. Because the Pittsburgh Steelers were in contention for a playoff spot, the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to play the best player that they felt was going to give them the best option to win. And at times that wasn't Mason Rudolph during that season. At times that was Duck. And so Mike Tomlin made the moves. He didn't make, like I believe he said it earlier, he doesn't make statements, he just makes moves. And he made the move in that situation there. And so I think that if Trubisky is not doing his part or not living up to the standard that has been laid out for the position and for the Pittsburgh Steelers, then I don't think that the Steelers are going to keep him in the entire year if he starts to stink it up. I think the Steelers have put a solid team around the quarterback. When you look at the running back position, you have Najee Harris, who is struggling right now with a sprained Ellis Frank injury. That's kept him out of most of the preseason, but he did play majority of the half in the last preseason game. Did look a little bit rusty. However, I think that's why they played him a full half, was to knock off some of that rust. But you have Najee Harris, you have Pat Freiermuth, who I think is going to have a breakout year just solely because of the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be throwing in the middle of the field and down the middle of the field, which is something that they haven't done for a few years now. And so defenses are going to attack the Pittsburgh Steelers based on the identity that they've had. And, I think there's going to leave some wide open spots down the middle of this field. So I think Pat Freiermuth's having a breakout year. And on the outside, you have Deonte Johnson, who's arguably, one of the best route running receivers and separators in the NFL. Now, if he can, which I don't think he had a drop in the preseason, if he can manage the drops in colder times and late in the season, then I think he's going to be a solid, wide receiver 1A to wide receiver 1B, in my opinion, which is going to be George Pickens. I think he has potential to be rookie of the year. I think that, and Claude Bishop says if they would have moved up, they probably don't get George Pickens, and that's absolutely correct. If the Pittsburgh Steelers would have moved up to get Kenny Pickett, they don't get George Pickens, which is, I think, a guy that the Pittsburgh Steelers loved and wanted. I think he was arguably the Pittsburgh Steelers had multiple steals out of this draft. I think Kevin Colbert did a fantastic job on his way out of the Pittsburgh Steelers to enjoy his retirement with this draft. I mean, I think he knocked it out of the park. And George Pickens, like I was mentioning before, has the potential to be offensive rookie of the year. I think that the defenses that are going to be attacking the Pittsburgh Steelers or the defenses that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to see are going to be ones that are going to be trying to stop the run, especially, how many times or how much the ball is given to Najee Harris. Now, with that being said, I think that, like I said, I think that George Pickens is gonna truly benefit from that. And not only that, so is Deonte Johnson, because once George Pickens starts taking the top over defenses, the defenses are going to have to start to put a safety over them, over George, and that's going to leave some opportunities for Pat and Deonte Johnson underneath to really work. And, I was really impressed with, while we're talking about wide receivers right now, with with Gunnar Olszewski and his ability in the slot, he managed to get open quite a bit. I was able to get out there for training camp this off season, and got to watch some of the watch one of the practices, and talk to a couple of people that were able to watch more practices than I was able to, and also had some guests on the show that had been to training camp. And one thing that they had said was that Gunnar had been an All Pro coming in, as a kickoff punt returner, and really hasn't showcased his skills as a receiver. However, this offseason, he's really done a fantastic job there in the slot, getting open quite a bit. He's getting lost in the shuffle. Very shifty guy, and has pretty solid hands. And so I wouldn't be surprised if he's a guy that comes in and make some splash or some noise on some key third and shorts, maybe third and immediate type of things, and in the red zone while everybody's eyes are attended to Najee Harris or Pat Freiermuth or George Pickens. Gunnar Olszewski is going to be the guy who might be getting those mismatches that are going to give him an opportunity to make some splash plays. So I'm really looking forward to what this offense has. So we kind of go full circle. I think that whoever is in the quarterback position, as long as they can do a solid job with the receivers, with the running back, with the tight end. Now, yeah, of course, there's that question mark about the offensive line. They played poorly. However, I think they kind of turned a corner, so to speak, in the last preseason game. I'm not saying they're fully around the block and are going to be doing and playing at a all pro levels or anything like that. But however, I think they're going to be okay. It's going to take some time for them to gel. They haven't played a full game yet. And so with that being said, they need to learn each other. They need to learn what each other is going to be doing in certain situations. And as the season progresses, I anticipate those guys gelling and becoming more of a cohesive unit together, and really being a solid offensive line. But right now, until they do so, they're a huge question mark. And so when it comes to this offense, I think Mitch will do okay. And he'll be given an opportunity to do okay. But if he can't handle the pressure, or he can't manage the pressure behind this offensive line, I think that's when we might see Kenny Pickett. Because what I was able to see in the preseason from Kenny Pickett thus far is that his ability to maneuver the pocket, see where the pressure is coming, and not only see where the pressure is coming, but attack where the pressure is coming. So when you go back to and you watch the play where Pat Freiermuth in the second preseason game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, Kenny Pickett hits him in stride. He reads an overload blitz on the left side. So he understands where the blitz is coming from and understands where to attack it, and extremely fast, accurate. I mean, every time I talk about this, I always talk about how Mitch Trubisky is going to be the starting quarterback week 1, but I somehow always try to talk myself into it might be Kenny Pickett. It's hard. It's hard not to. You know what I'm saying? When you see the accuracy and you see the decision making, one of the biggest knocks on him coming out of college was that he had a 3.2 time from snap to throw average, and that his processing of the plays was going to be slow or potentially slow. And that's been the opposite of what he's been able to show up to this point. And so, he is shown to have that it factor, not only to do the throws and in pressure moments, but, under extreme pressure of, in the Jacksonville game, it was in a 2-minute situation, under 1 minute situation. And, they needed a score. And so when you look at what Kenny Pickett was able to do in that situation, also in this first preseason game where he actually, won the game with a throw to Tyler Vaughns in closing seconds, that leads me to believe that this is a guy who has that it factor, who doesn't shy down in those high pressure moments, because not only was the moment of the game pressured on him or put on him, but also the moment of the stadium. You had the fans when it comes to the Lions game booing the number 2 quarterback at the time, Mason Rudolph, and chanting Kenny Pickett. That's a lot of pressure on its own to go in there and perform. But to perform in the stadium that you've played and excelled in college, and Now there's that expectation for you. And I know, and I understand it's only in preseason and against, the third string and the second string. And well, he had some snaps against the first string Jacksonville team, but, nothing where it's going to be like in the regular season. However, those things matter, and you're able to see in those pressure moments what he's able to do. And I think it's fantastic. I truly do. And like I said, I always come into these conversations when I talk about the quarterback position saying Mitch Trubisky is going to be the week one quarterback, but end up somehow talking myself out of it. Maybe that's what Tomlin is doing, and that's perhaps why he hasn't announced a start up to this point. I don't know. But but with that said, I think it's going to be an interesting battle. And I think that perhaps the Cincinnati Bengals are asking themselves the same question. And if they're asking themselves the same question, asking themselves, do we need to prepare for Kenny Pickett as well? And that's going to give the Pittsburgh Steelers an advantage, a competitive advantage, knowing or because of the Cincinnati Bengals now have to split their preparation time for two different quarterbacks. Similar skill set, but still two different QBs. And so, well, that said, I'll see if take a few questions or comments in from the live chat. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think who do you guys think should be the starter there for the Pittsburgh Steelers come week one? Let's see. Allie says, I love Kenny's accuracy, but he's not changing the protection yet. Give him some time. That's true. That is true. He wasn't changing protection. However, I did see how he was able to dissect the defense when pressure was coming. I think that was very admirable of him, and I think that was next level. That isn't something that you usually see from a rookie. But when you talk about Kenny Pickett, he's 24 years old. He's older than a couple of players that have been in the league for a year or two already at the quarterback position, and so. Perhaps maybe he's a little bit more advanced because of that. I think so. I mean, I think he did fairly admirable. Let's see. Claude asked, do the Pittsburgh Steelers make the playoffs? I believe they do. Last year, the Pittsburgh Steelers didn't have their offensive line was, in my opinion, going to be worse than what the offensive line is going to be this year. I know up to this point, it's been questionable, but I really do think that the offensive line turned a corner, so to speak, in this last preseason game. And I think they're going to be doing some good things upcoming. Now, with that being said, the Pittsburgh Steelers with a quarterback who, had to get rid of the ball extremely fast, maybe because of the offensive line, maybe because of the mobility, maybe because of the arm strength, who knows? There was a certain style of offense that the Pittsburgh Steelers needed to play. And with that being said, and down so many times, I believe they averaged only 6.5 points in the first half of every game. It was horrible last season. They still were able to make the playoffs. I think they do it again this year. One of the good things about having a loaded AFC is that those teams have to play each other. They're going to beat each other up. They're going to have to lose some of those games. And so I don't anticipate a team going in the AFC winning 14 or 13 games this season just because of how talented and how strong the AFC is. And so, if the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, out of the AFC West are playing the Raiders, maybe could win a couple of games and get into the double-digit win area, they may be, in conversation for an AFC North championship or more. Who knows? But I think at the very least, the 7th spot, playoff spot, I feel that that's highly likely. If you guys are betting men and women, I would take the over on their wins and losses. I believe it's still at 7.5. Let's see. Claude asks, did you bet any money on the over and under in the win? I haven't yet. I'm located in an area where betting isn't legal on sporting games yet. So maybe I'll get a VPN and dig into it. Let's see. Carmichael, the sports guru, says, Kenny need to start. The center job is to change the protection. Yes and no. The center and the quarterback the center talks to the offensive line. He talks to what's going on up front. But when it comes to the middle linebackers and any kind of safety or defensive backs, that's the quarterback's position to talk to the offensive line. It is a very co-partnership there when it comes to the center and um, and it's not always the center. It could be the right guard that calls out the protections in the place. And so I think that um, it's a co-partnership right there, and with experience and cohesiveness, and those two guys gelling together, I think that bodes great or good for the offense, and maybe perhaps that's why James Daniels, coming from the Chicago Bears, and Mitch Trubisky, who was a former Chicago Bear, um, could lead to some, a better start, so to speak, just because of their familiarity right there. Let's see. Hey, what's going on, Jared Devil? Let's see. Robert or Bob Conning says, what do you think about the Thursday night games going from TV to streaming? Well, the only thing I would think about that is when I've streamed videos or football games versus watching them off of a satellite feed, I've noticed there's a little bit of a dip in quality when it comes to um, the TV. Now, if they're able to, stream it out there in 4K and my TV is able to pick it up, great. However, I was actually talking with another friend of mine about this not too long ago, and he was actually the one who brought it up to my attention, where he was watching the streaming feed off of one of the Thursday night games, um, and he put it on the satellite dish and going back and forth, and the clarity on the satellite dish with the direct stream or the direct link to the satellite was a lot more clear than it was on the streaming. And so I think in that aspect, it's kind of maybe perhaps it would be better to have a direct shot in. However, when it comes to streaming, it's the next step. It's the next step into what the NFL is going to probably be doing. I think that DirecTV only has this season left when it comes to having that monopoly on the Sunday ticket. I think the Sunday ticket might be going to a streaming service, and so it might be the future. And with that, I'm pretty sure there would be implementing new technology to make the picture more crystal clear. Um, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and so I anticipate that happening. But when it comes to that, me being in an area that isn't in Pittsburgh, where I have to get the Sunday ticket and be on DirecTV, that becomes quite expensive altogether. And I would honestly prefer some streaming or a streaming option over being locked into a satellite contract, so to speak. But great question. I enjoy it. Um, DirecTV might be going into bars and restaurants on Thursday. Yeah. Let's see. Claude asks, do you think it was classless of our fans to boo Mason against the Jaguars? I believe it was the Seahawks where he got booed in, but I understand what you're talking about. And yeah, no, I agree. I don't think it was a good move or a good look, from the fans in that moment. I understand the emotion behind them everybody wanting to see Kenny Pickett, but to boo another person as they're walking onto the field, that's not a good look. I mean, it's not as bad, but it's pretty close to when somebody's booing or cheering somebody for getting injured. It's classless. I don't like it. Now, when the strip sack happened, whether they were booing Mason or booing the play or booing the team in general for going backwards after, getting such awesome field position, I completely understand, and you have every right to do so. But to boo the guy as he walks on, who's trying to showcase, do a job interview, showcase himself, not just for the Pittsburgh Steelers, for any other team that potentially could be interested in him in a trade or a future employment with him as their QB1 or 2. It's not a good look. But the fans pay their tickets and their prices, and they go in there and pay their overpriced costs for hot dogs and beers. And if at the end of the day is their choice, I just feel it looked very bad on the fans. And hopefully, if Mason Rudolph has to return in into the lineup for whatever reason, that won't be the situation or the case in the future. Great question. Great question. Gerald, yep, never blew someone in the black and gold. I completely agree. You know, like you can boo the situations, like for instance, when the offense is just going three and out, three and out, three and out, and you can start to boo when they've gone three and out and they got a punt again. You know, those situations, yeah. But to boo somebody as they're coming onto the field, it's not right. I don't like it. Let's see. Bob says, right, calling a player garbage is not right either. Absolutely. I mean, these guys have made, for somebody to make it to the NFL means that they've got to be a star somewhere. The talent that's there, and what happens usually in game that maybe a player isn't living up to a certain expectation may not be always just skill. It could be injury. It could be what's going on off and on the field, and things of that nature. And so I try not to belittle anybody when it comes to their performance. I will say, well, somebody needs to get out. They need to get out, or if somebody's performance is poorly, I will call that out. But trash and garbage and things of that nature, I don't like it either. I do not like it. Let's see. Claude Bishop goes, do you think Tomlin gave Mason a fair shot at winning QB1? I do. I do. I think he was given a fair shot for a while now. He was given his opportunity in 2019. He was given an opportunity to be on the field 3 times in preseason games. Now I get it. He didn't get the varsity look. However, he's been in the locker room. He's been on the field and in a practice field and in stadiums now for 5 years. The Pittsburgh Steelers know what they have in Mason Rudolph. It's like if you own a car and you know how fast it is or its performance is, and you've driven that car for a while, and then you get a new one and you want to, and you know that the new one's faster, you're going to start taking out the new one more, even though you may not be giving the old one a fair chance. You know what it is. And so I think that, and there was some reports from some insiders that stated that that Mason was given a real chance up until the first 2-minute drill where he ran out of time. And at that point, and I think it was Jim Wexell on Steel City Insider. Go watch him. He's a good show. But I believe it was Jim Wexell who said that while in training camp, Mason Rudolph lost the confidence or gave the Pittsburgh Steelers, quote unquote, flashbacks to old Mason when he ran out of time on a 2-minute drill, where his processes weren't as quick or as fast, and just kind of gave the idea or the feeling that Mason hasn't changed. I was listening to Arthur Mote's Experience, and him also mentioning that in practice settings when they were doing a play action pass, that once they did the play action pass and turned around, that Mitch Trubisky was the fastest to diagnose the play and find the open man and find the open read, and that and that Mason Rudolph was just like half a second behind him. Now, I saw Mason Rudolph play in 2019, and I think he did a fair job. However, leaving the stadium against the Miami Dolphins, I also thought that perhaps he was a half second behind. I often said that if the game slowed down half a second, that Mason Rudolph could be a very good quarterback in this league. Now, listening to what Jim Wexell says, what I have seen, and what also Arthur Motes have seen, it doesn't sound like it's changed. It doesn't sound like the speed of the game has slowed down too much for him. He still has those processes that are a little bit just about a half second slow. And, these other guys, in my opinion, process a little bit quicker. And so once you have that acknowledged and figured out, then you just got to move on with the right guys. There's only 3 preseason games. There's only so many reps. And so that's my opinion, kind of what happened with Mason Rudolph. He was given a fair opportunity in the beginning, but just didn't show that the process had changed, or the speed of the process has changed for him. Great question. Bob says, can you boo Steely McBean? That's funny. Let's see. Claude asks, who will be the Steelers MVP on offense and defense? So offensively, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to go with Najee. I think he's going to have a big year. I think George Pickens, Deonte Johnson, and Pat Freiermuth are going to push defenses back, and it's going to allow Najee to eat. He's going to have a big, solid year. And on defense, I truly think TJ Watt's going to, if he can stay healthy, he's going to have – I didn't see your next one. Najee and TJ. Yep, that's exactly who it is, Najee and TJ. I think TJ's on his path for another breakout year as long as he can stay healthy. But if TJ Watt ends up having, 18 sacks or something like that, not that 22, 23 sacks, 18 is still quite a bit. Don't get me wrong. That's still a high number. If they were to go with somebody outside TJ, I would say it'd probably be Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think he's also going to be in for a big year. I think the defensive backs are going to be playing fairly quickly and fairly strong. When you look at the pass rush, if TJ Watt can stay healthy and Alex Highsmith can make another leap forward, and also the emergence of Malik Reed, that pass rush is going to be awesome. And that's going to create a situations for the quarterbacks to have to make fast decisions and fast reads that increase the probability of incorrect decision-making and inaccurate throws, which would allow for the Pittsburgh Steelers to make more turnovers. If you go back to a couple of years ago, when the Pittsburgh Steelers had TJ Watt and Bud Dupree, Bud Dupree started getting those double-digit sacks. That's when the turnovers started to happen on the back end, because the quarterbacks were having to rush those decisions and throw inaccurate passes. And so it's all a domino. Excuse me. Sorry about that, guys. I hope I didn't blow anybody's ears out. It's all a domino effect. And one thing will lead to another, so to speak. And so, but yeah, great question. I think we're going to do fairly well. And I think there might be a couple of options for MVP on both sides. If I were to choose somebody outside of Najee, I think Pat Freiermuth on the offense. I think he's in for a big year. I truly do. The Pittsburgh Steelers, when you look at the next-gen stats for Ben Roethlisberger last season and a couple of seasons there, he really didn't attack the middle of the field. And, I think that Pat Freiermuth is all around one of the better tight ends in the league, probably top 5 in my opinion. And so I think he's going to have a huge sophomore year. I'm excited. I'm excited for this team. It's young. And, with a young team, concerns about how young they might be and might be there. But because of the season being so long, I like it because they'll be able to gel and grow and learn to be with each other and get hot at the right time. I expect there being some growing pains early in the regular season, but by the time the middle point comes and by the time the middle point comes and by the time the end of the season, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to start to get hot, and they're going to be getting hot at the right time. So I look forward to this season. I think it's going to be a great one, and I can't wait. I'll answer one more question, and then we'll be letting you guys go. Claude asks, what kind of year will Devin Bush have, and will they re-sign him after the season? Well, history says that most of the time the Pittsburgh Steelers don't re-sign first-round picks who they didn't give the fifth-year option. Now, they did to Terrell Edmonds. However, it was on a super, super team-friendly deal. I know he was looking at a couple of different places, but I felt that he perhaps felt that this was the best option to showcase his skills, to give him a bigger paycheck next season. But with that being said, I don't think he's going to be back. There's going to be two things that are going to happen. Either Devin Bush is going to return to form and outplay himself out of Pittsburgh, because he's going to require a huge contract, or he's going to not play that well, stink it up, and find himself not on the Pittsburgh Steelers because of that. I honestly, truly think that those are probably one of the two options that are going to happen. When it comes to outside of the Steelers franchise, when you're looking at a middle linebacker like Devin Bush, and let's just say he returns to form and he returns to what he was prior to the injury, or at least on the same trajectory, another team is going to look at him as like, hey, you know what? He had a down season, but that's coming off of an ACL injury. Outside of that down season, he's had a trajectory that's going up. He had a potential. He was an alternate for a Pro Bowl. Let's just say he gets a Pro Bowl this year, he's been a Pro Bowl. That's gonna that's going to attract a lot of buyers for his market, so to speak, when it comes to the offseason, which will probably out. Well, he's going to demand a paycheck that's going to outpay himself outside of Pittsburgh. I don't think the Steelers have put a lot of money on the defensive side at this point, and some of that money is going to have to start going back to the offense. And so I don't think they're going to be throwing too much into it. So to answer the second one, answer that second question, I don't think the Steelers are going to re-sign Devin Bush this year. Like I said, because one of those two reasons. And as far as what type of year he's going to have, that's up in the air right now. I think he played better in the last preseason game. He looked more confident. He looked more eager to put his face mask in the pile. There are still some things that are concerning, like for instance, when there's a running play going to his direction, sometimes he runs to the blocker instead of the rusher. I don't understand it, and I just don't understand it. But there are certain things, if he can just kind of clean up and return, I think he can have a solid year. One of the biggest things that's going to help him is going to be the defensive line. Larry Ogunjobi up front, Tyson Alualu, if he can stay healthy, and Cam Hayward are going to be his best friends. They're going to clean up and clear up a lot of the issues that are up in the front. And so, in my opinion, he's going to have an opportunity if those guys can stay healthy, and if the offense, because that's the other thing too. Last season, the offense went 3 and out so much. Their time of possession in the first half was down the drain. It was poor. It was extremely poor. The defense was on the field tremendous amount of time. They were gassed. They were tired. They were getting injured. And if the Pittsburgh Steelers can maintain the ball a little bit more and at least average, and that's going to bode well for this defense. And that's going to bode well for Devin Bush, in my opinion. I think when you factor in those things, and then you also have the return of Jerry O, and also the acquisition of Brian Flores to help him out, and probably one of the biggest free agent acquisition next to him, Miles Jack, this is going to give him the best opportunity for hold on, we may have some breaking news right here. I gotta look this up. Blitzberg just says Steelers just picked up Josh Jackson, corner from Green Bay. Always thought the Steelers were going to draft him out of Iowa, second-round pick for the Packers in 2018. I'm going to confirm this real quick. That is awesome news. Let's see, Josh Jackson. Okay. Yep, the Steelers signed cornerback Josh Jackson and Delonte Scott, round out practice squad. Got you. Nice. That's going to be a good, solid depth piece. Good, solid depth piece. Yes, it is. 2 more players to compete on the practice squad. Good deal. I need to look into him. I'm not too familiar with him. But, yeah, going back to what I was saying, with Devin Bush, and I think this is going to be his best year, so to speak, when it comes to the opportunities that he's going to have to shine. And in my opinion, it's going to be it's put up or shut up. He has all the incentives in the world. I mean, when you go and look at what the pay is for a middle linebacker that is, a solid, awesome middle linebacker, it's up there. And so he's got the opportunity to get himself paid, and we'll see what he does with that. I, for one, am looking forward to it. I'm, for one, looking forward to all these guys. I'm looking forward to this season. But with that said, guys, I'm going to be coming to a close. I appreciate everybody that was in the live chat. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Before the start of the show, we were at 559. I'm trying to get up to 1,000, hopefully by the midpoint of the season. And I really appreciate your support. If you guys would share the page as well. But with that being said, guys, I'm Daniel J. This is State of the Steelers. Peace.